And we are definitely changing topics from from Woody Woodpecker to a very serious but very important documentary. It's called 13th. And to help us with the review, we have got Maisha. And Maisha, this was a movie that came out last year via Netflix. It was nominated for Best Documentary. It lost to the O.J. Simpson documentary. Did you see that?
I did not watch it. I remember the case.
Oh, it was good, man. You got to watch that.
I watched the entire case in 8th grade.
There's more. Listen. It's more than just a case. It's really, really good. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about 13th, a documentary directed by Ava DuVernay. I always say her name wrong. I always put the wrong syllable. But anyway, this is a very, very important documentary, and it's one that has got so many different subjects and bullet points to it. I don't think we're going to be able to hit all of them.
Oh, no.
But let's just start off with the title. 13th has to do with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, correct? Which says basically that you can't own someone as a slave, correct?
Right.
Except...
Yes, go ahead.
except if you are in prison, basically, correct? Yeah. So this documentary... talks a little bit more about that. It talks about the rising inmates to prisons and prison society and the effect that it's had on the African-American community and also the Mexican community of the minorities. And what are some of the things that struck you most watching this documentary, Maisha?
So many points, so many aspects. It would just be difficult to even begin to
really
fully unpack everything.
Yeah.
But I will say when they began breaking down how quickly the prison population was exploding over the course of 4 or 5 years, then 10 years. It went from, I believe, like 500,000 to 2.4 million in a matter of years.
That graphic that they showed, from 1900 to 1960, the prison population stayed either the same or kind of had little valleys at the most. And then from 1960 to today, it just went... It spiked incredibly, and the documentary talks a lot about why that happened. Watching this documentary as a white male, there was a lot of parts where I kind of had a wall up, where I was like, no, that couldn't have happened because, it was just, for example, when they talked about Richard Nixon and his war on drugs.
Yeah.
A lot of African Americans ended up in jail because of it. And I was just thinking, oh, that's just the product of what happened, And, then the very next scene, they said, one of the Nixon White House aides came in and said, yeah, we knew what we were doing. It was, It
was intentional.
It was intentional. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What? It shocks you.
It slaps you in the face.
Yeah.
It's because as a black woman watching it, and I watched it with my husband, we were sitting there, and he's not as well versed in Black history and whatnot as I am, and I just.
What, you're not saying he's.
No, I'm saying he doesn't. He's not a super political person. He doesn't really dive into things of that nature.
Gotcha.
And you know him. He's really laid back, and he just feels like you be good to people, and they'll be good to you. And
sure.
I grew up, really learning about these things. And as a black female watching it, I have brothers, and there's moments where it just makes you tear up because it's like everything I always thought. And learning these things with my degree in criminal justice, is everything I ever thought was really solidified. Like you said, you have those moments. Even as a woman, I was sitting watching no. But then again, you say that very next scene and you're just like, oh, really?
Yeah.
I wish I didn't have to get my thoughts solidified by this blatant in my face evidence.
Sure.
It made it really hard to say, well, if you do this crime, then this is what you do. You go to prison. It makes it really hard to just have that black and white argument. Yeah,
you're right. A lot of people might be listening to this review and they're like, oh, I don't want to watch that because it's too political and it's going to rip on just Republicans and conservatives, and that's not the case.
It is not at all.
One of the biggest factors in the rising prison growth was when Bill Clinton came in the office, and some of his actions caused the increase in the...
Yes, it did. And when you have people coming out saying, Hillary Clinton come out saying, calling young black boys super predators, that puts that bullseye on the back of every young black male. And there comes a point where sometimes you'll hear people say, if you're going to keep accusing me and you're going to keep on saying I'm this, I'm that, I'm this and that, and you're going to treat me like this anyway, why am I not already being this? Because you're already treating me like I'm a criminal and I haven't done anything. It's almost being, back in the 80s, 90s, I would even say 70s, probably 60s, being born a young black male, it was almost being born a crime. Like you were a
criminal.
Yeah, you were a walking criminal and you haven't even done anything. All you did was come into the world.
Yeah.
And it's hard to navigate a society when policies are literally set in place to marginalize and criminalize and incarcerate you.
There's so many other points and topics I want to get into. We don't have a lot of time. One of the coolest points are something that really stuck with me was the very last line of the documentary. They have this gentleman who was talking, and he said, there's a lot of people who talk and they're like, if I was around when slavery was happened, I wouldn't put up with it. I would just I would say, hey, this is wrong. And there was people who were around during segregation, and they said, hey, this was happening when I was, if I was living in that time,
it wouldn't have
happened. Well, he makes the final point that, hey, there's atrocities and things happening right now.
Where are you?
Where are you? And then, boom, mic drop.
Yeah.
It's a valid point.
I think every single scene in this documentary was like getting punched, in various places on your body, and then that last sentence is like that final knockout punch. You just kind of like, and there were several moments where it made me tear up. I had to pause it because I was just overwhelmed.
Sure.
I had avoided watching this documentary for almost a year because I knew I wasn't mentally ready.
Yeah.
And I don't say that about a lot of things, that I'm not mentally prepared to watch it, but that is really something. If you're listening, this is not a Republican versus Democrat issue. This is not a black versus white. But at the same time, it is literally a black versus white. And any other ethnicity that's marginalized in this country, it didn't stop in the 60s. It just changed forms. And that's basically what it says.
And they hit on that a lot in this documentary, is that it might not look the same as it did before. It might not look like slavery. It might not look like segregation. It's just transformed. It's packaged in something new and something different.
Yeah, you can package anything shiny and make, most people get distracted by shiny objects. Ooh, a new toy. Well, look over here. Don't worry about this. It's not what it looks like.
Sure.
This is a very much ignore the man behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz moment, and this documentary really rips that curtain back.
Yeah. There's one negative I would say about this documentary, at least to me, was that the documentary's an hour and 40 minutes, and it's a quick watch. The scenes are very fast and very boom, boom, boom. They don't stick on points very long. They move.
Agree.
And there was times where I'd be listening to one of the commentators say something, and then they get cut off by somebody else. And I was like, I really wanted to hear what else they had to say. I kind of wish they would have made this a two-parter or, several different.
Don't know that it's not.
Yeah. But for this particular one, I wanted them to go a little deeper.
I will agree. I think that some people were making some very good points, and I hated it. I hate for people to get cut off to begin with when you're making a valid point.
Yeah.
So an hour and 40 minutes is not enough time to unpack everything that they actually addressed. It was like you addressed it and then we moved past it.
Yeah, it was very, very quick, which it held your attention. The pace was fast, so you're like, okay, all right, what's up next? Okay, what's up next? So it held your attention. It didn't bore you, which was important as a viewer, but I also wanted them to hold on just a little bit longer so I could get more points and understanding of each particular issue. So that's just a minor complaint, but all in all, I enjoyed it, and I think it's an important documentary that they should show in schools and educational classes.
I think if nothing else, as I'm not a parent yet, but as parents as well, as your children start to get older, the world is more diverse. This country is really diverse in spite of what people try to show you.
Sure.
And this is a really important documentary to show your children and have those discussions, because no one ever seems like they want to talk about it because it's uncomfortable.
Right.
But just because something is uncomfortable doesn't make it any less reality.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think we're going to improve as a nation or a society if we don't start communicating with each other, being
about
honest,
hard topics,
and being honest and communicating and trying to get past those hurdles that we all have. You know,
I think it's really preconceived notions. Everyone's so wrapped up in what someone on TV is telling you that you think,
sure,
as opposed to being an independently free-thinking society and saying, hey, I don't necessarily agree with what you have to say, but hear me out.
Sure.
You know, and I can hear you out. And you just don't have that anymore, because the topic of slavery and the school to prison pipeline and things of that nature, those are uncomfortable topics.
Of course they are.
You know, and I'm not a white person by any means. I can't imagine really how it would feel to be white and feel like you're being attacked, you know, but I am black and I know what it feels like to walk around in my skin and actually be attacked.
Yeah. Well, that goes the same way. I don't know how that feels.
Yeah.
I've never ever had that I've never had that happen to me at one iota. So I think this dialogue and conversation should continue, and we all should just listen to each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Movie's called 13th, and it was directed by who?
Ava DuVernay.
Thank you for saying that so lovely. We've got more reviews coming your way next right here on the Screen Team.